Is now the right time to quit drinking? Today we're going to discuss the stages that everyone experiences on the road to sobriety. I'm Dylan Reed and I'm a professional recovery coach. 5 years ago, I was a drunk, I was in the middle of a divorce, couldn't hold a job, and I was on the way to being homeless. Today, I own my own business, I've helped thousands of people to get sober, and our marriage has been saved with 2 more kids to show for it. Today, you're going to leave with the framework necessary to understand where you are in the cycle of addiction and steps to move forward with your life. We can accomplish this by discussing each stage, discussing what it feels like to be in that stage, and actionable steps to help you move through them. So today we're going to discuss Prochaska and DiClemente's trans-theoretical model. That's really just a $1 million word to address behavioral change. First step is pre-contemplation. And we're going to go ahead and discuss what that might look like in your life. For most of us in pre-contemplation, we're not even aware that we have a problem, or at least not most of the time. And when we do recognize that we have a problem, we tend to really blow up and over-exaggerate the benefits of whatever that behavior might be. In this case, we're going to talk about alcohol use, right? And we're going to downplay the consequences of that. So what do we do when we're experiencing this? We need to learn to become self-aware. We need to listen to the people around us. And if you are one of the people around us, we need to be kind in the way that we share information. Nobody in the history of ever has gotten sober because we were a jerk to them. That's just the reality. For most people, it goes the complete opposite direction. If you're a jerk to someone, their drinking is going to increase. So we can do this by sharing information that does consciousness raising. That means things that motivates us or inspires us, things that gently reminds us that the decisions that we're making do in fact have negative consequences, and mostly highlights the benefits of getting sober. You can do that by sharing content like the stuff that I create or others, right? You can also do that by just engaging with them in light conversation about an experience that they had, especially when they're experiencing kind of a bit of a bottom, a hangover, a bad experience from the night before. One of the other things that we can do is get them involved in motivational interviewing. That's what I do through coaching. That's what you're going to find with substance abuse counselors or anything like that. All of those are great steps to take as someone's trying to get sober. So after the pre-contemplation stage, for those of you that have not guessed at this point, is the contemplation stage. And to move from the pre-contemplation stage to the contemplation stage, like we discussed, we really just need to start seeing that there are more consequences generally from our drinking. We want to avoid that, get through the pre-contemplation stage as quickly as possible, because the consequences might look like financial consequences, spending too much money on alcohol. Maybe our health is starting to decline. That's costing us money to go to the hospital. Maybe we're having relational issues, like our wife wants to leave us, our kids don't want to talk to us. Maybe we're having issues at work. These are a few of many, many consequences that can occur from our drinking. The other thing that happens in contemplation is that we start to recognize that there are potential benefits of changing the behavior, that is, of getting sober. So in the contemplation stage, things that we can be doing to move it through it a little bit more rapidly is that we can find support systems. This might be just our close circle of friends and family. They're constantly reminding us like, hey, you are so much more fun to be around when you're sober. I love that you remember what happened last night. Those are a few things that we could be picking up from our support circle. We can also be involved in things like AA, Celebrate Recovery, joining just Facebook pages in general, or whatever other social networks that you might be on. There are groups of people that are proud of their sobriety and they're more than willing to share the benefits that they've experienced since they've gotten sober. Other things that we can do is improve our self-efficacy. And this one is huge and often understated. You have got to believe that you can get sober and that you can stay sober, that you can do it. Not that someone can do it for you. You have got to believe in yourself if you want to get and you want to stay sober. And other things you can do is just be educating yourself. Read about the consequences of drinking. Understand that, yes, you're going to have increased cardiovascular risk and cancer risks and all of these other things, and understand the benefits, right? How much money are you going to save? What does your life look like 10 years from now if you continue the behavior? What does it look like if you stop the behavior? These are all things that can help you move through the contemplation stage. All right, so once we have resolved the ambivalence that's experienced in the contemplation stage, we then move on to the next one. That is to say that once we have recognized that there are a lot of consequences of our continued drinking and there are a lot of benefits of our sobriety, we'll move on to the next stage. And the next stage is the preparation stage, sometimes called the determination stage, just depends on your source material. Doesn't really take a rock scientist. Yes, this is the stage when we'll be preparing to move on to the next stage, and that is to quit and to stay quit. Okay, what this looks like is action planning. Like actually sitting down and thinking, okay, what do I need to do in order to get sober and to stay sober? We might be identifying resources during this time. Do you need a detox? Are you experiencing withdrawal? Like, do you need some sort of medical intervention? Do you need to actually go to a rehab? What is it that you need in order to continue to stay sober? Maybe you've recognized that you don't have emotional resiliency. This is where skills development comes in. You recognize that every time that you do drink, it's because something bad happened to you. So maybe you need to get a counselor so that you can work through whatever that issue might be. This is where we develop support systems that we're plugging into instead of just observing, okay? So maybe you're going to more meetings. Maybe on Facebook, you're not just watching. You started to comment. You started to actually engage with the whole entire process. This is another time where there might be small steps made. You might get sober for a day or two. You know, you're like, okay, I'm doing this, but it just doesn't stick quite yet, okay? You might be goal setting. You should be goal setting. So picking a quit date. Now, I'm going to quit on July 15th. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that's the day that you're going to quit. So on July 15th, what does that look like in order for you to stay sober? Do you need to have a spouse or partner or whoever you might live with? Do they need to get alcohol out of the house for a while? Do you need to avoid situations where people are drinking? What does that look like? Envision that stuff, set goals, and also develop some contingency plans. So what happens if you do start drinking again? Who do you need to call? Do you have people around you that can identify the behavior and they need to call somebody? This is what preparation looks like. Truly flesh out what you need to do to get and to stay sober if you intend to stay sober. Don't just like willy-nilly do it. Prepare for the next stage. So after we've identified the plan through the preparation stage, in the next stage, the action stage, we're going to go ahead and implement that plan. So when we're thinking about the different resources that we needed to identify in the preparation stage, which ones are you actually using? Did you need a medical detox? Did you need to go to rehab? What support systems that you identified as necessary are you using to help you stay sober? Are you going to AA? Are you going to Celebrate Recovery? Do you have some sort of substance use counselor or therapist? When we were talking about skills that needed to be honed, did you decide that yes, you need emotional resiliency because you do have bad days and those bad days have led to drinking? You decided that you do need a counselor. Maybe you've decided that you need to exercise. Now let's talk about moving forward, because in the action stage, we're really solutions focused and forward facing. So how are you celebrating milestones? When you hit 30 days, when you've hit 3 months, when you've hit 6 months, how are you going to reward that behavior so that you continue the behavior into the future? How are you going to manage triggers? This is one that's often missed and just kind of glossed over. What do you do when you do have a bad day? You can't just go to the bottle like you have in the past. This is what the action stage is all about. We have quit. What are we going to do to continue to stay quit? So now that we have taken action and we enacted the plan that we came up with in the preparation stage and we've been sober for a while, we move into the next stage, which is the maintenance stage. Ideally, we spend the rest of our life in this stage and we are not falling back into old behaviors. So maintenance looks like ongoing support. So do you need to continue to see a therapist on a regular basis? Do you need to keep a coach or a counselor that's always there to help you? What do you need in order to continue to maintain the behavior that you just recently changed? This also looks like the support systems we talked about. If AA or Celebrate Recovery or any other sort of program has helped you to continue to stay sober, how do you plug into that more? How's that something that you don't get bored with, something that engages you and that you can engage with? How do you increase further skill development? If you identified, like we talked about, you just don't have that emotional resiliency, what do you need to do to create more coping strategies so that you can prepare for the challenges that life will definitely throw in your direction? How do you continue to celebrate more successes and more milestones? And when I'm talking about this, how do we start to celebrate other areas of our life? Because sobriety becomes just a part of a bigger picture. So how do we take our life to the next level? How do we maintain sobriety and maintain a life that we can adapt and we can change and we can grow and we can develop? What are actions, what are lifestyle changes that you need to adopt that keep you sober, help you to stay sober? This might be exercise. This might be hobbies. What hobbies have you brought in that bring you some sort of joy so that staying sober has become a breeze? And then here's the next things that we need to handle. We need to be able to identify signs of relapse. Nobody wants to talk about this part because it's not everybody's favorite, but most people do experience a relapse at some point. So what happens? What does it look like? How can you identify it? How can you pump the brakes before you run into the wall? And then also, how do you prepare for it? Not just seeing the signs, but like once it has occurred, what are the next steps that you're going to take? What sort of relapse prevention plan have you created? Do you need to have someone call your therapist, your sponsor, your coach, your counselor, whatever you might be having as a support system? Do friends and family need to get involved? Is the plan to go straight back to rehab? What does that look like? These are all questions that, if you answer in the maintenance phase, will help you to continue to stay sober for the long run. All right, so we just talked about the idea of relapse, and I want to make something abundantly clear here when it comes to behavioral change. So in this model, we can hop in and out, back and forth at any point in time. So when we relapse, if we were in the maintenance stage, that doesn't mean that we just go back to the action stage and we go to a rehab and we just commit to sobriety again and we stick with it. You can end up anywhere. You can end up back in the contemplation stage. Like maybe what you were doing in the maintenance stage wasn't beneficial enough to your life for you to recognize that, hey, sobriety is for me. So you find yourself clear back at the contemplation stage. You say, there were not enough benefits of my sobriety to outweigh, the consequences of me drinking. Like, I don't mind a hangover. It's not a big deal. My life was boring, or any other sort of excuse or reason that people come up with when they want to fall back into a pattern of behavior, right? We're not going to just go from maintenance to action every time. We need to really, during the maintenance stage, we want to build a lifestyle that supports sustained sobriety, whatever that might look like for you. Like, the goal of getting sober isn't to just get sober. Like, I didn't come this far just to come this far. It's about being able to thrive. It's about being able to just climb mountains, maybe literally, right? That is what getting sober is all about. If you want to maintain sobriety, if you want to continue to avoid relapse, then you truly have to build a life that supports sustained behavioral change, or you're going to be at threat of relapse all the time. You're going to white knuckle sobriety. You're going to be that dry drunk. You're going to need to go to meetings every day. And this is not me denigrating people that go to meetings every day. If that's the lifestyle that supports that person's sobriety, I'm all for it. I'm not here to judge how someone got or stays sober. All that I care about is that you take this information, you understand this trans-theoretical model, and you continue to stay sober. Hey guys, Dylan Reed here. I get a lot of comments asking for help. If you need my help, the easiest way to get a hold of me is to send me a text, 940-242-3215. If you're interested in learning about more ways that you can get and stay sober, make sure to grab a free copy of my ebook, The Sobriety Success Roadmap, at sobrietyroadmap.com. Again, I'm Dylan Reed, professional recovery coach. Make sure to subscribe so that you get new content as it's released. Comment about any experiences that you've had. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up. And of course, share this with somebody that can grab value from it on their road to recovery. Thank you.